Hello again, my harrowing horde. Sugar Pants here, sleazing my way into your little hearts with another tape to tantalize your taste buds. And today, I think we're in for a treat. 1987's Creepozoids. See, I told you all the way back during my review of Dr. Alien that I was going to get to this one. Here we see the loving Little John family sitting down to breakfast together, including Creepozoid cereal. Start your day the creepy way with Creepozoid cereal, part of your completely slimy breakfast. Don't worry, I'll definitely be doing that one in a future episode. Eventually. So what does this awful abomination accompaniment accomplish? Let's fire up that sleaze docket and find out. We have 4 dead bodies, 6 cups blood, 21 cups monster goo, 2 naked breasts, gratuitous, but welcome, side boob, 1 soapy co-ed shower, 1 decapitated head, fangs to the throat, 1 chewed neck, death by shelving, 2 giant mutant rats, Deus ex hypodermica, monster fetus puppet, 1 future porn star, and monster goo bukkake. Now that's just fun to say. Go ahead, say it. See? Our movie begins in a spooky lab where a grad student is working with a fish tank full of magic science goo. A noise sounds and causes her to call out to see if anyone is out there, but she promptly goes back to her work. The noise happens again, and she calls out again, but she passes it off. Again. So the noise happens once again, and she calls out once again. And then she passes it off once again. And then, guess what? The noise happens again. Only this time she opens the door to check and they show off the monster? Wow! We're not even 2 minutes into the fucking movie. Cue the title card and print out text to explain the backstory. It's the far-off, distant future of 1998. And World War II's nuclear weapons have destroyed the planet. But you know what? If nuclear annihilation is what it takes to not have to suffer through the rise of Kid Rock, then fucking so be it. So we set up a world full of barren wastelands and mutant nomads. That sounds awesome. So let's film our movie in downtown LA. Here we meet up with our ragtag group of plucky survivors, aka monster fodder, with a killer synth score. While wandering the wastes, our team stumbles across some possible shelter and set down for a short break nearby. Jesse complains about his bursitis and that it's sensitive to rain. This is important because all rain is acid rain, and there's a storm a-comin'. Seeing the approaching clouds, the team runs to the nearest shelter. Guns drawn, they slowly make their way through the building as the stock footage clouds build outside. Eventually, they make it to a warehouse and just start shouting to anyone who can hear. But the only thing that reacts are the rats, which Kate doesn't care for at all. I'm sure that won't matter later on, right? Jake gives the great plan of splitting up into 2 groups. He, Kate, and Jesse head off in one direction, while Blanca and Butch go in another. Jake and Jesse look over some animal cages and suggest that it might have been livestock for food, but Kate isn't so sure. Butch and Blanca find the barracks complete with working showers and fresh, cold water. Jesse ends up in the lab from earlier in the film, and even though some time has passed, we still have a fish tank full of fresh, magical science goo. Eventually, he finds a working computer, as well as a fairly fresh, severed head. The rest come and check it out, but promptly leave. Sitting down to some chow, they come up with a plan to hold up in the facility, but Kate and Jesse aren't so sure it's a good idea. Blanca excuses herself to take a shower, and Butch volunteers for guard duty. She says he's doing no such thing, because she needs someone to scrub her back. Jesse goes back to the computer to dig up some information about the facility. Not far in, he's already hitting classified information that he doesn't have access to. But that's okay because it's co-ed shower time. Jake meets up with Jesse to see if he's gotten anywhere, but all he's discovered is that the facility was working with amino acids, the building blocks for life. Jesse says if he can get an uplink, he might be able to find others nearby, but Jake reminds him that they're deserters and says to not bother. That's when Jesse says he's certain something was watching him earlier, but Jesse tells him to lay off the ghost stories. More cloud stock footage to show the passage of time, and everyone goes to bed. Jesse gets up to do some reading and finds a floppy disk hidden in a book. Well, how convenient. He immediately takes it to the computer to see what's on it, and it starts reading like something out of Fallout 4. Experiments and putting stuff in people's food. But he's distracted by a noise from the gigantic fucking vent under the desk. So naturally, let's break out our flashlight and go crawling around. And unfortunately, he misses the most recent log that's a lot less ominous and a lot more straightforward fucking creepy. In the vents, Jesse puts his hand in, I don't know, monster shit? He eventually comes out in a room full of obvious monster mess, complete with grunty groans. Suddenly, back at the mess hall, Kate's cooking up some slop while Blanca and Butch sleep off their shower fun. Jake goes to get Jesse up and, surprisingly, he's in bed and looks fine. He complains again about his shoulder and says the stronger acid rain means there's still a war going on. Back at the mess hall, the group makes up their plan to fully explore the facility, make an inventory of assets, and all that sort of stuff. They all agree that staying put could be the best scenario, but they still find it odd that the previous inhabitants left so suddenly. Jake is pretty certain it's just another government program that simply ended. Suddenly, Jesse starts thrashing around, pops in some fake contact lenses, and pukes black goo. His hand starts twisting and transforming before he falls dead to the table. Immediately, they run to the computer to see what he was researching. Blanca insists it was the food at fault, but the others convince her that only Jesse was affected, so that can't be it. Kate adds to Jesse's theories that they're in a containment facility designed to keep things in, not out. She also suggests that the amino acid experiments could make it to where humans didn't need food, and that the simple act of eating dinner is what killed Jesse. And since no one else was affected at dinner, something must have gotten to Jesse when they weren't looking. That's when Butch notices the open vent, and Jake goes inside to investigate. He notices more of the monster shit, but is able to avoid putting his hand in it. He makes it to the same room Jesse did, and finds his flashlight as confirmation. Eventually, Butch gets tired of waiting and goes into the vent himself. Blanca runs off for some weapons, but finds a body that's been hanging from the ceiling for a long time. She also ends up face to face with the creature! Her screams get the attention of Kate and Butch, who chase after her. She tries to describe what she saw, but the words are lost. Butch catches up with Jake, who's unconscious on the floor. Apparently, he also had a run-in with the creature. Jake says he doesn't believe it wants to kill anybody, but he's not sure of its motives. Kate analyzes a tissue sample from the old corpse and compares it to one from Jesse and finds out he was the healthiest of the group. Jake again says he doesn't think the creature wants to kill them, but the sound of shattering glass draws their attention away. Almost immediately, the power goes out and Butch runs off to check the generator. Again, splitting up is just a bang-up plan that has worked for them so many times so far. In the generator room, Butch is attacked by a giant rat. Blanca freaks out as soon as she sees it, and Jake blasts it with his laser gun? Jake orders them to retreat back to the barracks to get Butch patched up. The others want to leave, but Jake says you can still hear the acid rain falling outside. The team suggests sending out an SOS, but Jake reminds them that they aren't just AWOL, they're deserters. Butch says he'd rather do time in the stockades than deal with whatever is in the facility with them. But then Jake reminds him that they could be executed instead. Jake says the facility is theirs now, and they should take a stand to defend it. Ultimately, Jake says they'll try to get a message out to ask for civilian help, so he and Butch head for the computer. Rick immediately taps into the emergency line, but it asks for an authorization code. But before he can try, the creature bursts from the still open vent under the table and attacks. It knocks the two guys out and then hoses down the computer. Which is pretty dang similar to how I destroyed my computer in college. Blanca and Kate are having some girl talk, and we get another confirmation of Blanca's musophobia. Kate steps into the shower, but before we can get some more skin, a giant rat bursts from some storage and attacks Blanca. Eventually, it gets up under her shirt, and Kate yanks it out by the tail. She then does the slowly check under the bed cliche, only this time it's no fake out. The rat goes right for Kate's throat, and Blanca gets some much-needed therapy in stomping the rat to death. Now that the danger has passed, Jake pops in from off-camera. He tells Blanca that the creature has Butch and goes for the first aid kit. He gives Kate an injection to knock her out. Back at the creature's lair, it throws Butch onto a pile and hoses him down in some black goo. Jake and Blanca find him, and he's still alive, so they carry him to the infirmary where he begins to convulse and mutate. His eyes go yellow, his voice gets monstrous, and he begins vomiting black goo before his head starts hemorrhaging. But there's no time to mourn. The creature suddenly appears, and Jake blasts it with his laser gun. Blanca runs to check on Kate, who's turned into a deadeye.
I'll swallow your soul.
The two fight all over the room, and Blanca takes a savage ass beating. Finally, Blanca digs deep and taps into the rage, and eventually crushes Monster Kate with some shelving. Jake's running down the hallway away from the creature when he trips over absolutely nothing and is captured. Blanca crawls to the lair and finds an unconscious Jake who won't wake up. But something's watching her, and even though it's always snarling, it manages to sneak up on her. It picks her up and kills her somehow. It's too dark, and the camera keeps looking away for us to know what happened. But there's a lot of blood, and Jake screams her name, so I guess that means she's dead. Jake is able to escape, and we get another flashlight search of the storage room and some distant monster snarls. Hiding behind some shelves, Jake finds a convenient package of needles that just so happen to have an unnamed drug that can kill the monster. But somehow the loud as shit monster gets the drop on Jake and chucks him across the room a few times. Stepping to temporary safety, he readies a syringe with the mystery drugs and charges for the kill, and gets tossed into a convenient pile of boxes. He steps up for another shot and stabs the needle right into the creature's neck. The creature falls dead, his head smashing to the floor, and a weary Jake leans up against some shelving. But in true horror schlock fashion, it's still not over. The creature starts twitching around a bit and births a fucking half-human, half-monster from its head. And I gotta give props to the effects crew. It's actually not a bad puppet. It slowly crawls towards Jake, tearing its own umbilical cord in the process. Finally, the monster baby attacks, and Jake pushes the little bastard to the side. I'm glad that we had that build-up for absolutely no payoff. But now that he's lost track of the baby, Jake slowly pads the runtime with some more shelf searching. It's like trying to find my damn cats after a loud lightning clap or something. Finally, the monster baby attacks, and Jake tosses it like a fucking football, then slowly goes looking for it again. It attacks again, and he throws it away. Again! And then he has to go looking for it. Again! He crawls face to face with the little beastie, and this time strangles the abomination with its own umbilical cord. Personally, I'd stomp it into a gooey pile of sludge before walking away. But I'm guessing I've seen more horror movies than Jake. Our last survivor goes to check on Kate, who's still dead. Then we cut back to the little monster bastard, who wakes up just fine, and we roll the credits. And I'm left with a few questions, like, what's Jake's next move? Does he call for help and risk a court-martial for desertion? Does he stay in the facility now that he's under the impression that it's monster-free? Or does he hike out into the wastelands and risk not finding shelter before the next rainstorm? Well, hopefully you didn't also have those questions, because we get fuck all for an answer, and there's no sequel. Creepozoids was directed and co-written by David DeCotteau, and this is the second of his directorial projects I've covered. the other being Dr. Alien. He's actually been directing pretty steadily since 1984 and still has some upcoming projects as of this recording. Some of his non-X-rated movies include Dream Maniac, Sorority Babes in the Slimeball Bowl-orama, Nightmare Sisters, Puppet Master 3, Too Long's Revenge, one of the most popular of the Puppet Master series, by the way, Beach Babes from Beyond, Test Tube Teens from the year 2000, Prehysteria 3, Shrieker, Curse of the Puppet Master, Witch House, Retro Puppet Master, Puppet Master Axis of Evil, and of course, a talking cat? Blanca was played by our Queen of Schlock, Linnea Quigley, who is becoming quite the regular face on the show. I'm quite certain we'll be seeing more of her very soon. And in the credits, Kate was played by Kim McCamey, but you might recognize her from her other name, Ashlyn Gear. She got her start in some horror schlock, but eventually made her way over to the world of adult entertainment. And in an interesting bit of trivia, originally Ashlyn and Linnea were supposed to play each other's characters. But Ashlyn said she wasn't comfortable doing the nude scene, so they switched. And while we're on trivia, Linnea has said in some interviews that there was supposed to be some scenes involving her and the monster, resulting in her becoming impregnated by it. And that's just one of the many what-ifs we horror fans are left to wonder about. So until I greet you for the next toxic treat, this is your old pal Sugar Pants. See you in your dreams.